Hey everyone, it's our weekly Hangout, Sunday afternoon Hangout, where we talk about all things Android in Canada. We got a bunch of interesting news this week, so stay tuned. You got me here. You got on my left, Cass, and you got Ryan on the right there.
It's June.
Is it June? Oh, it is June too. Yes. So it's 81st Hangout and the first one of June. So I guess we can just jump right into it here. Big thing that's happened this week is the LG G3 is now official after how much leaking has happened. I know Ryan's excited for this. Ryan, you wanna get on the details?
Yeah, sure. The biggest thing I saw, I mean, you can look at the specs on it. It's a beast of specs. Let me just pull up the information here. So let's see. We've got a quad HD display. We knew that was going to happen already. And I think what was really cool, they did a really good job at explaining the whole 300 PPI, DPI cap. Everybody's like, well, isn't that sort of the limit? Well, no. Because anybody who does any printing, you know that usually when you print magazine quality or when you print off your printer, you're printing at 600 DPI. And that, gives you that room. So they're saying you can go as high technically as 600. And I think this is somewhere in the range of 440 or something, or 500 or something, I think it was. So pretty awesome. It's got a wicked camera with laser focus on it. So it uses lasers to focus on it and stuff. The design, and this is the only area I kind of don't get behind, in the fact that it's going to be a 5.5-inch screen. That's going to be kind of large, and Mark and I have been talking about these 5-inch screens lately. The 5.2 just makes it that much bigger, and so I'm a little scared about the size, but I do love that they brought in QI charging. So that's awesome. QI charging. There's going to be two different flavors of this phone. There's going to be the 16 gig version with 2 gigs of RAM, or there's going to be a 32 gig version with 3 gigs of RAM. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cool things. They showed off some accessories for it. I'm excited. I pretty much can nearly guarantee that this is going to be my next phone. What do you think?
Wow.
Well, that's yeah. I agree with the I agree with a lot of the idea behind, it's definitely, all the flagships are up there. They're getting in there. It's getting very competitive. But I am with you. But the size is a bit, big. You'd have to hold it in your hand. I've already been playing with the Z2, and I already feel that's a little bit big. But yeah, it's next phone. That's a big one. Big one, Ryan. Any thoughts, Cass?
Well, I know Ryan's has got an N4, so I would definitely be on the road to updating. I know when I had my G Next and went to the S4, it was like huge. So, and I know Ryan's a LG fan, but, such a mix of comments, and then to go, yeah, my next phone, that's kind of a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, to say it's going to be my next phone, I mean, that's kind of presumptuous. We don't know when it's coming out. I don't know the price of it. I mean, if it comes out and it's like $800 and some odd dollars because of the screen or something like that, I might have to rethink those words. But I mean, it's got everything I do like in it. A really good screen. It's got a really good battery, and we talked earlier about this idea of a 4K display. How much battery draw is it going to have? And they address that with their 3A technology and how much power consumption it's going to have. So it's kind of neat in that sense. But again, I really like what LG has done lately, and I'm all for this new one. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. So that's me. Yeah. I think I'm not gonna get it.
Well, that'll be the good question. Is they have their marketing lingo, their 3A, this and that, which you're never really sure how well it's gonna work. I mean, like, I was also skeptical when Sony had their Triluminous with their Live D blah 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 technology. And, they said that it was supposed to make things great, and you're not really sure how it's going to work out, but all the reviewers have said it's been really good, and I found it's been really good. So, I mean, the marketing lingo can just get in the way sometimes, but it can accurately depict it. So we'll see I just have to see how well this 3A technology works to actually reduce performance, or reduce battery life, or increase battery life, but reduce, consumption. But we'll see. Cass, you have a comment?
Yeah, I think with all these flagships that are coming out, they're all bringing a slightly different spin, and it's really coming to the point where you're going to have to decide what you really want out of a phone or a mobile device to make a decision, because it's not going to be as easy as, well, I've always had a Samsung, so I'll just stay with Samsung. Like maybe you do want that extraordinary battery life or something. I don't know. It's going to get interesting, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to see how they all kind of stack up and what kind of features they all bring to the table and what you want with your device, and especially the size is a big thing now. They're all getting pretty big now, so I mean, you have to be careful of that size too. Those dummy phones can become very useful now. All right. I guess moving on. The other news that's in here now is the Galaxy S5 has now in colors. So it's not just any blacks or whites, or it's colorful now in Canada.
Electric blue and what was the other color? It was copper
Band-Aid?
gold. Well, Band-Aid is and Cass, you're a chemist like me, so you would call the copper gold Tumbaga, if you remember the proper alloy, I guess.
I don't know. I'd probably just call it copper gold. I'm in safe now.
Anyways. Yeah, so those are out there. I have a question for you guys. I mean, Mark, you're starting to play with the Z2, and I know when you bought your Z1, you waited for the color you wanted to get. Cass, I know you went and got the S4 before the colors were out. Have you guys ever? And I think the Sony series, they came out at the same time, so it's not like they came out with here's the black, the white, and then the purple's coming out in 4 months, and the blue's coming out in 2 months, and does that really make a difference to you guys, or do you think that they're missing a lot of that capture by waiting and now we've talked about this before in the past, but waiting on it and releasing colors late? Is that a problem?
So with the S4, I don't think so, because with mine, I'm always going to want the black base. Like, I like the black base. However, I like the white back. So it's got a replaceable back.
Yeah.
I can go and get any color I want anytime. So for me, not a big deal. Mark?
Watch this good.
Yeah, for me it was actually kind of a deal. It's like what it came into was the Z1 was released as different colors for different carriers, right? So TELUS had just the black, Royal Bell had the black and white, and Rogers had the black and the purple. So they had all of them. So what carrier you were on was also pretty important for kind of what phone you picked. The colors, I mean, it's another way to personalize your device to pick what you want, and I think it's important that when you release a phone that comes in multiple colors, that you release all those colors to the market, because then you're going to get people who are kind of annoyed that they bought your phone ahead of time and maybe they wanted a different color, right? So I mean, some people may not care, but some people may care. So I think from a marketing or from a distribution point of view, your company, you as a company should be trying to get all those different options up there.
Yeah, even if you don't think that the gold or blue would sell well, you bring them out in a much lower ratio. You bring the black and white to market first, and then you say, okay, but for every 100, there's one gold or there's one blue or something like that. So I just think it should be, and Samsung, Cass, you're saying that Samsung is pretty upfront, right, when they first say that they're going to come out. But sometimes they're not as clear that they're going to be coming out in a month or 2 months. Or HTC is notoriously bad. They're going to say, oh, there's going to be a red one comes out of the blue a few months down the road or some of that. So I don't know. I just think that come out all at once or let us know specifically.
Well, you say like the black and the white, for every black and 1,000 black and whites, there's one gold that may go out. But you look at something like the iPhone 5S. I mean, that was the gold was pretty heavily wanted. I mean, that was actually out of they ran out of that one before they ran out of all the blacks, which was like space gray and whatever. They ran out of the golds for that one because everyone wanted that gold. So it's you have to do a little bit of market research to find out ahead of time.
But I think that, again, I don't know if it's market research, but like, again, when I used to work at a store that we sold them, like, I really didn't see the golds go out as often as I saw the dark grays go out, for at least for the 5Ss. But I don't know. I mean, that's just that. Okay, it's initially out. They sell a ton of them when they initially come out, and that's it. After that, it's not as exciting a thing for people.
It could be a pent-up demand thing.
Yeah.
You know,
They
people
announced,
see that color's coming, they want it, and then all the people that wanted it will upgrade right away.
did they announce that in the S5 announcement that there are going to be in other colors, or when they first announced it? I don't recall. I don't remember watching the S5 event. I think I did, but I can't remember.
They
now.
did, yeah.
They didn't announce it then, so at least someone should know that they were going to come. All right, back to you, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the next in the news, if you were paying attention a few months back, The Verge had somewhat of an exclusive where they released screenshots and news about the new Android TV that's supposed to replace Google TV. I know Ryan and I would probably be interested in this. But along with the announcement, there was no actual news on when it would come out. Well, there's been some rumors that have been coming out that this I/O will be seeing it, which is just a few weeks from now. We'll be seeing the release of Android TV. No, there's been no kind of no sessions that have hinted at it, but they said it could be easily be shoved into somewhere here or there. Any thoughts on that?
I'll comment because I've been using the Logitech review, so even older than your Sony one there, Mark. And I've really liked Google TV. I mean, it's something that my son really enjoys, gets him into that Android realm, and gets him using it. And so that now I start introducing a tablet to him. He's pretty familiar with how it works. So the Android TV would be, I think, even better, and I think really cool because for people like my son or my parents, as much as I love Chromecast, trying to explain Chromecast to some of them, they don't really understand it, especially if they've used Google TV. They see it and they go, well, this is much easier to do this. And then you talk to a lot of other people out there who all they know is Apple TV and how it works with their iPad, and their iPad automatically does this or that with Apple TV. The Android TV would be, I think, a nice companion because there's a lot of Android users out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing, too, is the Chromecast may actually be integrated into Android TV too. You may see something where you could get the 35 dongle if you want just that for the Chromecast, but you could also have the Android TV that has all that extra functionality, has the Play Store, has the other apps in it, and has Chromecast built into it. Then you could get everything into one, basically.
Yeah,
and
so
you can get the hardwire for those who have that problem with that.
And then you just choose, I don't know what app you're at. I'm going to cast to, then you'll see, cast to the Android TV screen or something like that. So, and I think the idea with if you had an Android TV box would be nice is that you could start expanding what that casting could do. You start giving more options and things that could happen. So, anyway, that's me.
The other big thing too with that is Amazon's Fire TV would be the main competitor in the U.S. for something like app or Android TV, but you don't have any kind of infrastructure for Amazon in Canada for TV shows or music or anything. So there really is no competition in that sense. The only competition would be something like the Roku or the Apple TV. So I mean, people who are invested in the Apple ecosystem are going to be there. Yeah, so that's a big thing that. This is all under the assumption that we are going to get Android TV in Canada. I think there's a good chance. It'll actually it may be an issue with how it integrates. If it's going to try and be like Google TV, where it's a pass-through through your cable box, or if it's a self-contained box too that doesn't go through, then it would have to work with your cable box, which I've had. It's never actually worked properly with my cable box, the Google TV, because they never got the cables to work with it, cable providers to work with it. But considering how we're getting a lot more hardware from Android or from Google as of late, like including Chromecast, I'm a little optimistic that we may see it.
Me too.
Okay. Next thing, big news. I guess if for those who have been following it, they may not be too surprised, but the big thing is that Motorola did close their Fort Worth factory that was in charge of most of the mono makers for US. Motorola does state that this won't affect the Motorola Maker program, but we'll have to see. Any thoughts on this?
Well, it's closing by the end of the year. And sorry, I didn't write the word comment. My bad. It is closing at the end of the year, so it's not a matter of it's closing right now, but people are going to get transitioned out. And I think it's sad. I mean, somebody wrote a nice little article, and I can't remember who it was, but they wrote, this is why we can't have nice things. Unfortunately, people clamor, especially in the United States, people clamor for that built in the U.S. label, and everybody was like, "Oh, so gung-ho about it. This is gonna be great." I mean, I remember the senator went to the factory and he ditched his iPhone to grab the Moto X, when he was at the thing, and it was great. But unfortunately, people just don't back it, and that's the problem. You want that, but at the same time, you don't support it. So I mean, if you're not going to support it, that's what's going to happen, and it's terrible. I mean, I watched the Moto X on the shelves at the stores, barely get any shelf time. Like, they never sold them until you basically forced them, and I reminded people that it exists, and that I don't know. I thought it was sad to see that it wasn't, because it was a great phone and a great opportunity, and just nobody seemed to jump on it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it is marketing. Like Samsung spends a ton on marketing, and that's why you see their stuff. Moto X, Motorola, because they're in transition, they couldn't really afford it. And I think that with a lot of things, people like the idea much more than they're willing to pay for the idea. So, and this really came down to it. They said from the start that this was not going to be a profitable phone for them. So it basically came down to, I'm sure that Google knew this was going to happen, and they probably wrote down that asset when they sold to Lenovo. I would imagine Lenovo never had any expectations of buying a factory, a Motorola factory in the U.S. So, and I really feel for all those people that were employed. I mean, that's a huge thing in a struggling economy to lose that many jobs.
I think it said something like 700 jobs.
Yeah, and at one time they had employed over 3,000 people. So already that's affected a lot of people. Not to mention a community. I mean, that's not chopped liver for community services support.
Well, my comment, I always, when we talked a while ago when Motorola was bought by a Lenovo, and the whole idea that Google had to get rid of a hardware company to get in, be nice with the OEMs, that's the theory. But, if Google had kept Motorola, would they have closed this plant, do you think? Or would it just a matter of, you think so? I think
they had been slowly laying off staff, and they had purchased the Mexico factory, so it's possible that they could have closed it anyways to make it more profitable, because they're it just may have been bleeding them money. But it's hard to tell what actually would have happened, because Google is also the company that would be more willing to have that name on it rather than worry about the accounting books or anything.
Yeah.
Yes, but people don't really realize how few people it takes to run a factory. That's just the way it is. So I could see them definitely, laying off people. Maybe they would have kept it open, but it would never have. It would be unlikely to employ that 3,000 people consistently once startup was done.
Yeah.
You child wrangling.
Ankle biter's getting around.
Yeah, he's sneaking around, wiggling around for my desk. Yeah. No, leave the power bar alone. Leave the power bar alone.
And that would have ended the show.
Years.
Yeah.
All right. Well, he's child running. You got it. Okay.
Next in the news, Oh, we're good. Yeah. So next in the news, the Galaxy Gear that Samsung announced last year that was running Android. With their new Galaxy's gears they had were also still wondering what they were going to do with the original gear that was running Android. But it looks like they decided to push out an update that replaces Android with Tizen. What are you doing? That replaces Android with Tizen. I don't have one of these, so I don't really know how well I know Tom had one of them when it came out. So
I think
I'm
Tom
not
got
really sure how this will change. What do you guys think?
I think Tom got the 2. I remember playing with the 1. It was kind of cool and whatnot. But I mean, the biggest thing I see people going around is like, oh, Tizen, as if it's the sort of black plague. They expect it to be like, uh-oh, it's gone Tizen. Next thing you know, the S4 is going to get an update to Tizen or something like that. And like, it's not as bad as it sounds. I mean, really, it's an accessory. Do you know what operating system your Bluetooth headphones runs? Stuff like that. It's just a matter of it's needed to do what it needed to do. It runs a little. Actually, we'll tell you, it actually runs a little bit smoother. It lasts longer on the battery. There may be some apps that will have to be reworked, that people like third-party apps will have to rework, but that's just it. That's my thought.
I know the main strength was. Yeah. I know the main strength was a lot of them were like Samsung core apps that had run, so I don't think a lot of those will be affected by the update because those will all be updated to run Tizen anyways with it.
Yeah.
I would think too that they must have some sort of wrapper system available for the existing apps. It's not like Samsung doesn't do Android, So they're going to be able to do something to ease those other apps into the ecosystem. I personally think it's a good thing. A lot of these wearables, they don't need to have the full functionality of a entirely blown system like Android. Like Android can do an awful lot. Does your wrist need that much unless you're actually making a phone for your wrist? So the whole Android thing didn't really make sense in the first place to me.
I think like the updates to Tizen, I don't think it's going to be a big issue for developers because if you develop for the Galaxy Gear, you're probably developing for the Galaxy Gear 2, which means you already have your apps that supports Tizen. And I think they probably, when Samsung made the update, they made the API relatively transparent, so you could actually transfer over to Tizen easily. So I think developers aren't going to have a problem. I think developers are going to like it more because it's going to be, less two kind of operating systems they have to work with. They just have to work with Tizen now for if they're doing gear support. So I think it's better for that. And I do think in general it is better because I think they did do a decent job making the operating system, like the Tizen operating system, good for these small wearables, right? Android itself may not be the greatest yet until Android Wear comes out. So the other question will be, will Samsung update all of these Tizen devices to Android Wear operating system? Will be the other question.
They came out. There's a patent filing for the name or trademark filing for the name Galaxy Wear already out there. So whether they make a second line of devices or you never know.
My money's on second line just because they are the throw the darts against the board and see what sticks company. So I wouldn't be surprised if they released a new device that was an Android Wear and probably a new Fit, the Galaxy Gear Fit and the Galaxy Wear Fit and everything and
Fitwear version 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got the money to. Why not? Right? It's not like they need to hold on to the money.
Well, and the Fit isn't using Tizen either. It's using whatever OS it's using. So,
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you got a solid point, Cash. Is that they've already had the ability to. They've already tested it out to see converting Android to Tizen, how well that would work for everyone. So they have a kind of a proof of concept. They have an idea that, like you said, that they'll know now how to process it. They've learned they never learn how to actually update the operating systems effectively. So if they have to change it from Tizen to Android Wear, they at least have some experience with it. But I'm still up in the idea that they may just release a device, an
That'd be
Android
a
Wear
bit
device.
of a change, though. I mean, we're looking at just changing the operating system of a small accessory to Tizen versus changing the operating system of a full-on fledged phone to Tizen would be an entirely different.
Oh, no, I mean, if they decide that, like if Google says, oh, you can only, if, say, the Android wearable OS becomes so attractive, then it's not going to be hard for Samsung to switch their, their wearable to the Android system. If it becomes, if it's super efficient and everything and enhances battery life,
that's true.
allows better connectivity, they already know that they have the drivers, so they can change over the operating system. So if Android Wearable becomes really popular, then hey, how hard would it be to push out a software change that goes from Tizen to Android Wearable? You don't hear that very often. So
No, yeah.
I think that's probably more innovative than a lot of things that people think about as being innovative. Like changing the operating system, just boom, with a software, like a whole operating system with a software wireless push. That's innovation.
That was a pretty big undertaking, I imagine.
Okay. Well, I guess now the Transport Canada has decided to follow along with our American neighbors and the Europeans from across the sea, and so now they're allowing aircrafts or airliners to allow gate-to-gate device access. So you can read on your Kindles, you can play with your phones. Of course, we have to thank the good Lord Harper for this, because he was the one who made it happen.
Yes, because really, we are a dictatorship. Seriously.
Well, I laughed. That was the headline after I saw the press release. Immediately, you saw Harper government brings in this, and it's like, no, he didn't. No.
Well. Yeah, and Harper government hates those activist judges, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. Anyway,
we know it's all politics and media crap. So
we'll let the Canadian side languish for a second and just talk about the news.
Yeah.
I just had to get that out. Harper did it.
Harper.
Not a.
Well, no, it's not the Canadian government. It's not the airlines. It's the Harper government will allow passengers.
They're going to have some.
So they were the sole keeper of you.
Of whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So back onto the actual news article. So for the longest time, these electronic devices have been banned from being used during takeoff and landing and during taxiing for X and X for reasons. No one's actually really, they said for safety, but there's really been no proper evidence for that. They just kind of were being safe. Well, after the FAA had green-lighted it and the Europeans had green-lighted it, Canada's followed suit, and now they allow electronic devices to be used while takeoff, climb, descent, landing, as long as you're in non-transmitting mode, and as long as the airline has met certain safety conditions outlined by Transport Canada. Those safety conditions, they've specified that you must demonstrate that the aircraft is not affected by the use of devices, and that during critical phases of flight and during emergencies, all passengers are aware of and able to follow through instructions. So that means to say that they probably won't let you shove your headphones during those safety announcements. It says they used an exemption for the Canadian aviation regulations to allow passengers to use your devices. You still will need to have obviously airplane mode during all those phases, but at least you'll be able to use those devices. Any thoughts on this?
Well, just like I'm wondering what their threshold for testing that was. Because when aircraft falls out of the sky, it's so rare that, how long, I just don't know how, I know that's the Harper government's out I guess, by saying it has to be thoroughly tested. But how would you test that?
I think you need to have the Harper government on the plane to get the okay.
Yes, and they can. It's sort of like
That's
that engineer standing under the bridge that he built.
Yeah. So.
The threshold. Yeah, I guess you're right, Ryan. If the U.S. can do it, then everybody else can.
Well, that's our Harper government for us.
Yeah, let's get off that.
Anyways, but yeah, no, I think it's a bit cool. I mean, yes, you need to leave your phone in airplane mode while you're. But to be honest with you, I don't think I really care if my phone wasn't in airplane mode when I was in the flight. Like, who am I calling when I'm in air? Nobody.
Man, and I don't.
The thing you may be doing is maybe posting pictures and sharing to Google Plus while you're taxiing.
But while I'm taxiing, taking off. Let me take a selfie. Oh my God, you know, like
a taxiing selfie.
You know, I look at it as I don't mind putting my phone away on an airplane. I mean, it'd be nice to read books on it or whatever. That's why I usually, whenever I fly, I usually grab a book just for that reason. Because, you know, I can read a book.
Actually, what I found the danger to having a cell phone connection while you're taxiing is Google Now will then think you're parking. And it will serve that spot as a parking spot.
You parked here, is that right?
Because I had that happen to me in Narita. Yeah.
Anyways.
I know as someone who travels intermittently that I really value my time without the cell phone. Like, honestly, if people could talk on their cell phone for the entire flight, that'd be super annoying to me. I mean,
I
would definitely purchase noise-canceling earphones. Like, kids crying on an airplane doesn't bother me. That, like, businessmen making deals, or business people making deals, that would drive me crazy.
Now, why is it that that's anywhere you go, in line at the coffee shop, in line at the grocery store, no matter where, somebody who's talking business on a cell phone, I find the most annoying thing. I don't know if it's just they talk louder or whatever it is. It's just the most annoying thing.
I think there's that perception of showing off, really. I mean, seriously, your business is so important that you have to discuss it in a public place where there is no confidentiality. Like, I don't want to discuss my business somewhere like that.
And is it the same companies that they probably work for that you can't have, like, you can't have your own USB keys or something like that? They have to be super private. Yet, go to the coffee shop and talk really loudly into your phone.
And they always talk like they're trying to yell at the person in case they're in Japan.
That's why texting is so good now.
Yeah.
But who texts for I just can't. Anyway, that's another story.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go on to the reviews. Mark, wrangle us.
Yeah.
Canadians complaining. Surprise.
But politely.
Yes. I think we got Ryan first with his S5 and the Gear Fit.
Yeah, okay. My gear, the S5, as I reviewed just recently, I put the articles up. We talked last week about it, but everything's already up on the site now. As Mark and I were kind of discussing, we're finding that the 5.2, 5.1 inch is just that tad bit too big. I find with for me, the biggest notification that I know it's too big, if I go to put it in my change drawer in my car, it just doesn't fit in between it. Like, whereas my Nexus 4 fits perfectly in there and room to spare. My wife's S4 fits perfectly in there. You put the S5 in there, and it's just kind of, it doesn't quite sit in there anymore. And I mean, yes, I should put it in my pocket anyways instead of, having it in the change drawer. But it's just one of those things, like, that's where I plop it down, and I find that would be just too big. As for the Gear Fit, I thought an amazing device. I really, 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 really love it. I thought it was the perfect mesh of the amount of sort of activity monitoring and notification sort of handling. So being able to respond to text message with canned messages, and you could it's surprising how many apps worked with it for notifications. I was kind of surprised at it, and it's a perfect size. Like, I went back to the Sony Smartwatch 1, and it just felt big again. But there was the smart band that. The Gear Fit was just a nice size. So
I'm glad you found it that way. I just wanted to make a quick comment.
Did you find that the... oh,
I loved it. I love my Gear Fit, and I wish it would come back from the repair shop.
I'd be asking them for making sure that they extend your warranty.
I'll be phoning on Monday to find out where it is. What's up with it? It stopped charging.
Anyways.
Did
Yeah, I'm done.
Hey Ryan, did you find that the width for the Galaxy S5, like was it the width or the length that was too big?
For
to
me
fit
on
in the
that one,
change drawer?
it was the width that it won't fit in the change drawer. And the same thing with the Z2. I found if I put the Z2 in the change drawer, it fit just about width-wise, but it just kept hitting that shutter button all the time. So putting it in there would activate the shutter button. So it'd be taking a picture of my cigarette lighter all the time. So.
You have a lighter?
Well, that's where I put my charging port in, right?
I have a cap. It says 12 volts.
I need to charge my stuff in my car.
Yeah, I do too. It's just that I have a little cap that says 12 volt, not an actual lighter.
Well,
I still don't have the lighter thing. Okay.
I still call it CLA. Yeah, I still call it CLA.
Okay.
But
I thought you got the smoker package or something.
Well, no, I didn't get the smoker package. But yeah, you're right. The little flap comes down, and it does say 12 volts on it. But I leave my charge port plugged in there. So, same thing.
Okay. I guess we're going to go on to my first impressions of the Z2. So I know Ryan already did his review and posted on, but I also got my chance to get a hands-on. I got the white one. See? Oh, fancy. Or as I like to call it, the Stormtrooper one, because it's black on the front and white on the back. Not a big fan of the color, but that's not really what I'm looking at with this device. My first impression of the device, I'm in an interesting position where I get to compare it to the Z1. And what I found is that it makes my Z1 feel inadequate in many ways. It takes way better pictures. I don't know why, because it's supposed to have the same sensor, but they must have something with the software where the pictures are way better. The battery life is like at least 1.5 times better than the Z1. That may be because I have a bunch of apps on my Z1 too. The sound on the dual speakers is actually really impressive. I've played them both next, and it's just the sound is a lot crisper, clearer. The screen is a lot better, especially at angles. You can see a lot better. So I mean, it's like in those ways. The only thing is it's bigger, like you said, and I'm not a big fan of the size. So what they've kind of done is they've made the device, the Z1 is just ever so slightly skinnier than the Z2. You can't even tell. And when they did that, they made the screen 5.2 inches instead of 5 inches for the Z1. So what that means is that it's actually quite a bit taller. And I posted a video earlier this week where I showed that this is actually a little bit too big for me. To reach is not comfortable one-handed. I'd have to use two hands to reach. And I'm not a big fan of that. And so I think from that point of view, I feel like the 4.7 to 5 inch area is a really good area for both giving you a good screen size while giving you still some comfort to use it. I also feel the device is slightly lighter than the Z1 as well. It's maybe like 15 grams lighter, and I never thought that 15 grams, whatever, that's just a small margin, but it actually does feel noticeably lighter to pick it up. The other thing is it kind of fits in my docks, but it is slightly thinner, so it does wiggle a bit. So I mean, that's that. I mean, it does still work though. I mean, you could probably jury rig something to make it fit, but other than that, it's still a pretty impressive phone. The tap to wake is nice. So I have tap to wake on, so you double tap to turn it on, the screen on. It is kind of tricky to start using that because you're used to using it on other phones where it doesn't have that, so you still hit the power button. But with a device that has it, you have to get used to doing it. But if I get used to doing that, then I'll probably try doing it on my Z1 all the time. The big thing they've done is they got rid of they used to have 3 flaps in the Z1. Now they only have 2 flaps. They kind of stuck the power and the SIM card, I think, together in one slot. I think it's a little bit dumb. They should have put the SIM card and the micro SD card slot on the same flap because those are the two that you hardly use, or the power you use all the time. I'm actually just going to wait to see if Google releases some kind of, if Sony develops some kind of waterproof micro USB slot. That would be really nice, like they did with the power or the headphone jack. Other than that, I mean, I think the mic works better for canceling out wind as well. I took video outside yesterday with both the Z1 and the Z2, and you still get a lot of wind sound, the whooshing. But with the Z2, you hardly get any whooshing sound on it. So I mean, I'll have a look more into that. But so far, I'm actually really impressed with it. It's just the size is a little bit too uncomfortable, but everything else it seems to do excellent. So I mean, if I didn't have the Z1, I might have been picking up the Z2, but I'll just wait for the Z3 or Z4 now.
I think we may all be getting used to bigger devices going forward. Just like I remember when the S3 came out and it seemed so huge, and then the S4 seemed normal. So you never know, Mark. Maybe next year it will seem like a regular size.
I remember writing when I got the Galaxy Nexus, and I remember writing the comments that this thing is huge. I cannot tell you how big this device is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Normally I'd agree with that, except for the fact that after a while I get used to the device's size, but I still haven't properly gotten used to the Z2. The only thing that I do like is it is just as narrow, or a little bit narrower, so it does feel a little bit more comfortable to hold in my hand that way. But the height is it's a bit much of a stretch, so if they kept the width the same but made the height a little bit shorter, then I would probably be happy with it. Stay tuned for my full review. I have another, I think, a week and a bit with it left. So, ROM updates. It doesn't look like there's any ROM updates. And Martin or Sylvain's not here. Big ROM users. Device firmware updates. I don't think anything has been pushed out the last week. I don't know. You guys know of anything?
Nothing I've run into. No.
Just in the U.S., I think they're continuing on with the Samsung device. Like the older Samsung devices are getting KitKat, so not a.
I know. Yeah, Sprint Note 2 was getting KitKat, so
yeah.
We might be getting ours soon.
Yeah. App updates. I'll let Ryan go through those because he's our resident app update expert.
Okay. Well, first off, I'll do the couples I know, and then I'll leave it back to the cast for BBM. Android Device Manager now has Guest Manager, so if you lose your phone, you can grab your friend's phone, log in on the Android Device Manager app, and then shut your phone down or do stuff. So it's kind of nice to be able to do that. As my wife tends to lose her phone a fair bit, so I can get her to log in on my phone to find hers. Google Play Music now has more features like dismiss items, share, pin, playlists. Photoshop Touch now lets you use the native Android image picker versus their built-in one, if you want to do that. Google Camera now has the aspect mode changer. You can set timer and different modes for your panoramic shots. So square or fisheye or round and some of that. So, and then I'll turn over to Cast for BBM.
Well, just the one with BBM, they've been slowly updating, and this one I noticed it did seem to work a lot smoother than it used to. So I'm hoping that it's better for phoning through the app. And more emoticons.
Emoticons.
Everyone loves emoticons. So I guess that's it for the app updates, I guess.
Yep.
Now for the tip of the week. Oh. Yeah, okay. Now on for the tip of the week. I don't know if you want me to guys do the tip, I guess?
I can show it if you want. I can get ready.
Okay.
So let me just get barbecue screen up.
Sure,
here.
okay.
Barbecue screen is working for you?
I'm back on my Nexus, right? So my Nexus is working. So pull it up here. Then I'll share my screen with you guys. Okay, so blam. So the idea here, guys, is that let's say you've installed Photoshop Touch. Where is Photoshop Touch? One of the things Photoshop Touch does is it if you ever click on an image again, it might ask you, like let's say if you just installed it, might ask you to be, do you want to use Photoshop Touch every time to edit an image? And you can say yes or no. And if you accidentally say yes, that I want to use Photoshop Touch every time, it can be a pain. You can see how long it takes just to open up the app. So how do we change that away? And I think we've done this before. So let's just take a look here. And now, typically, any Android device this works. If you're using Samsung, and I think LG has some, there's an extra tab for it, but essentially you're going to do the same thing. Let's go to Settings, and you're going to scroll down to see Apps, or App Manager, or whatever it might be called, and you're going to see all your different, you can see downloaded apps, running apps, all apps, etc. Essentially, in this case here, I want to stop Photoshop from being the default manager. So what I'd do is I'd go and find Photoshop Touch. I would tap that, and then I'd look in here, and there's an option here that says Clear Defaults. So I would clear those defaults if it was the option. I think right now I have it set as my gallery as my default manager. So if I go to gallery, oops, not fuse locations, gallery, and right now it's set. You can see that it's because it's set as like the default. I would click that to say change it from default. Same thing, like for example, for just images, you would have Google Plus Photos. I think is the other one that it could possibly be. Google Plus Photos, or is it just called Photos now? I can't remember. But anyways, the idea is the same. That you find the app that's sort of being the nuisance one, tap it, and choose to clear default. If you're using KitKat, there's a default one for just a home launcher, so you can change between the home launchers there. And I know in Samsung you're saying, Cass, there's a whole tab just for which ones are different default apps for the Samsung apps.
No, actually, I think that is just the same one that's in KitKat. But
Okay.
in the Samsung App Manager, it also has a note there that says this is a default app, so that
Okay.
it sort of gives you a hint when you go through your App Manager. So if you can't really remember what the app was, then you can sort of be twigged that way.
Well, I guess based on regular Android, you'd click into it and you can see if the default button is ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Clear defaults, then you know it's a default manager. It's kind of a weird way, but you're right. There should be something like this. This
Yeah.
app it defaultly handles these files or something. Yeah.
For sure.
That's the tip of the week. Changing your default manager. And again, I think we've done it before, but just to give you some new version of it, new look at it. Back to you, Mark.
I guess we'll move on to the app Coliseum. So I don't know. Oh, actually, I wasn't here last week. I wasn't here for a few weeks, so I don't know who won. Do you know who won?
I'm pulling it
Ryan?
up right now. Let me just pull it up here.
Ryan's the only one that ever knows who won.
You guys can always look on the same page.
We
I'm looking on. It's, so let's just take a look at last week. We had Cass showed off Skimble Workout Trainer. Martin showed up Backups Manager, and I showed Minecraft Pocket Edition, which is addictive, I gotta say. So the winner was Martin's Backup Manager for Apps and Data. A lot of people were looking to transfer between ROMs or something like that. So he had the most plus ones last week, so congratulations to Martin.
I have to say that the Skimble workout did I got a notification that there was a new workout, and it actually looks pretty good. It's just 20 seconds of push-ups, 20 seconds of crunches, and then you flip. Do 5 cycles of that. You get stronger.
If you're health conscious, I guess that's the thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll get in there.
All right. Who's gonna go first this week?
First one, I guess we'll start. We'll just go from the top down. So, Cass, why don't you start?
Okay, I will start. My app is called Plague Inc., and it's been around for a while. I'm going to do a screen share. And it's kind of a weird app because you are a disease and your target is to kill everybody. And it's really neat. It is a really neat learning tool, actually. Apparently, they had it at the CDC to show people how disease spreads. And what happens is, as you go along, you get extra points. And when you get points, you can change disease, you can change the transmission, the symptoms, and the abilities. And then it affects the severity and lethality. So what you really want to do is keep it stealthy enough that you can infect a bunch of people, and then twist it so it becomes lethal. And at the same time, depending on what mode you're in, scientists may or may not be working on a cure. So it's really challenging. I've only won on casual mode. That's where pretty well everybody has gutted their research, so nobody's so they don't have anything to start with, and people don't wash their hands and stuff like that. Any other ways, anytime there's any kind of research in place, I can't win. I can kill a lot of people, maybe half the population of the world, but will rebound. So it's really interesting. It does show the value of research. Some people don't realize that there is a value to medical advances, it would seem. And yeah, I'm surprised. It's a very pretty game. And it also does, you have to sort of watch to see what kind of news headlines come across, because it should affect how you make your pathogen mutate. Now, I am playing the free version, but there is some in-app purchases. It's either in-app purchases or upgrades through the Play Store, which end up being the same anyways. So you can get different pathogens and different modes of transmissions and stuff like that. So it's cool. It is an interesting game.
So are you patient zero, or are you the actual disease?
You are the disease. And then what you do is you decide where you want your disease to start, and then go from there. All you do as a person, as a human, is where you want that disease to start, and then you are the disease.
Interesting.
So give it a try. It's actually very interesting how hard it is to win if there is any amount of medical research already in place. Yeah. Psychopathic training. Not unless I can become a bacteria.
Or sociopathic training. I can't remember which, psychopathic or sociopathic.
Socio would be you don't feel like you're people's.
Anyways.
Be careful. The right-wing news may be saying that this game is encouraging diseases to spread along the world.
Yeah, all by themselves. I think the anti-vaxxers are doing
training
that.
Training disease people. Okay, I guess I'm next on the list, so I'll go. I may get a bit of hate for this one because of everyone is like, it's so easy to hate on Yahoo, but I decided to look in because they've had a new kind of like resurgence in I guess in design, Android design. So one of the things they came out of the new Yahoo Android team is this Android News Digest. And what it is it gives you kind of a little snippet of news that go through. So I'll just pop it open today. And as you can see, it pops open and it gives you a nice interface. When you first start the app, it asks you where you want. So like, for example, I have, I'm going to turn the brightness down. It tells you what country you want, the United States, UK, Canada, or International Edition. So I chose Canada Edition. Did I? Didn't see what I just picked there. No, I took the International Edition. So I go into Settings, Edition, Canada. So, and it gives you notifications too. So every morning it'll ask you like, oh, good morning, would you like to check out the news? And so what it kind of does is it kind of gives you kind of a goal. So it gives you I think it's 9 stories or 10 stories. And so you can go into them and you can go into the world, and it gives you the news article in there. It gives you some quotes. It gives you additional information. So it gives you some tweets related to it. If it's in a location, it'll give you Wikipedia articles. It'll give you the Google Maps of where the location happens. So it's a really well done app, and it shows you where your references are. You swipe to the right, you go to the next news article, and you can go through. And it basically gives you a few articles to go through. So if you read, as you can see, if you go back here, you can see the ones that I've read are solid in, or like filled in, and the ones I haven't read are still like empty. If you go scroll down to the bottom, it gives you you have read 3 out of 11. So it's kind of like your goal is to get all 11 articles read. So I'm gonna cheat a bit today. So I'm just gonna jump through all of them. Blah 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 blah. Okay. And I'll show you. So what'll happen is once you got through 11 news, then it'll say you've read 11 out of 11. And then gives you a little bit of hints, gives you a little bit of like, did you know kind of stuff. And then if you want, you can read more news, and they got extra news you can read through. So in general, what it is it's a very nice, like, it doesn't give you too much news. It's not like all broken down. It gives you some of the top stories you may be interested in. It kind of makes it a game to try and get through to get all those 11 news, or 10 articles, or 9, or whatever how many it is. And so it makes it a little manageable. The design is really done well for Android. You can see some like where the location is with the map. You can see some tweets related to it, and I think it's done very well, the design. So I recommend giving it a shot. I mean, and especially they do have the Canadian edition, which is nice to have that.
And you probably got JBQ working on it too, don't we? So
he was the one who was like who posted about it. Oh, by the way, this is the app that we developed. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. So it's really well done. So that's my app. So now we'll go to Ryan's app, Word Monsters. Go ahead.
Okay. So those of you that know me know that I like word games. I like Sudoku puzzles. I like those. I like logic games. So here we are with Monsters. So Monsters is a neat little game. I'm just gonna go back a screen here. So you can play around, and you can play as a league. Actually, so you play against a group of other people, and you can get higher in the game. But I'll just show you a game right now. So you can play single-player games, and I've done on some of these games here. The idea being here is that I will play, let's say vegetables. So a bunch of words will come down, and you have to find them in that list. So I will find, what am I doing? Garlic, pea.
Oh.
I can see turnip.
Turnip, where's turnip? Oh, there it is, turnip. The problem is that if you take a word too soon, then it's supposed to be coming out, tomato. It will, shallot? No, that's not how you spell shallot. Leek. It'll tell you that you are out of plays for that game, so then you have to redo it. So I'm doing terrible on this game today. I think I'm going to lose this one because the way I've got it going. So I didn't get it in the right order, so I am out of words. I'm done. I'll say I'm done. I can go back and play it later. But what's kind of nice is that, again, you can play them by yourself and see if you can do them. I've got some gold stars. You go from bronze to silver to gold. But again, you can play them as a league, and you can see against other people. You can see how I'm doing. I did pretty terrible this past week playing, but apparently I'm in top for Division 9H. But in 8H, I am like near the bottom, I think. So yeah, and I thought the bottom there this week of 8H. So I didn't do too good. But then again, you can also just play random people. So there we go. This Kara Sap I've asked them to play a game, and so they pick they pick the first one, which sort of area, right? And they hide their score. So you play, and then they show you the scores, and then you pick the next round. So again, I'll show you. So musical instruments. Let's see how this one goes. It's a really fun game, I gotta say, and it's like each one's under a minute. So I mean, really, you're not stuck in it for too long. Ukulele.
Oboe.
Ukulele, isn't it? No. Oboe.
Can you like go around the
I got-
corner?
No, you have to go on a line. I screwed that one up. Now, if I wanted to, I could restart this level for 5 cookies. And cookies like the in-game sort of currency. You can buy more if you want, or you can win some, but you buy them really slow. So I'm done. I didn't do very good. I only got how many points? 250 points, 2 stars, which is another form of currency in the game. And to their 429, so therefore I lost pretty severely. So there's my little guy. And again, I can pick the next round, which we want to work on. But then again, you can also play around with your character. So I can change my monster to however I want. So let's change his face to a blue face or red face, green face or whatever, or not. You can as you go through the game, you get different things that you can win. So like different little accoutrements to make your guy look funny and cool. So cool that you can play against some fun people. Nice little fun logic game. It's kind of addictive, especially if you play one round and you end up getting not the right order. So you have to keep doing it to try to get the right order to get it done in the time allotted, so you get 3 stars. It's kind of fun. Done by the company Rovio Stars, who owns Angry Birds series. But Racket Spell, they bought Racket Spell here to do the game, and that's a really kind of fun game. I liked it a lot. I hope you guys do too. So, word monsters.
Oh. Yeah, that looks like an interesting game. It definitely.
Yeah, it does.
What's interesting is if you don't do it in the right order, you can't actually get all the words. So that makes you have to think about it a little bit more.
And you're timed on it too, so you have to think really quickly. So as soon as you see a word, it doesn't mean you have to go for it. You have to think about. And what's really kind of dumb I found is sometimes they say the word turnip. If you use the P in that turnip, you can't get the P for the word potato later on or something like that. Or it's kind of weird that way. But
it's not reusable. The letters aren't reusable because they're gone.
They have to be in a specific order. So, but yeah, it's a fun game, and I just like it just for that brain elasticity idea of pushing your logic, challenging yourself. So.
All right, so I guess that's it for this week's Sunday afternoon hangout. Thanks everyone for stopping by. Everyone else wanted to give their shout outs.
Bye.
Bye.
Enjoy June, guys. Enjoy June. Great weather.
Are you having great weather? Because we aren't.
No, we're not having great weather.
Yeah. I will be enjoying this Sunday with the beautiful weather. Maybe going doing some shopping. So yeah. All right. So I guess that's it for us. Everyone have a good Sunday. Have a good week, and I guess see you again next week.
Next Sunday, June 8th, number 82.
Yeah.
Be there or be square.
Mm-hmm.
Or both.